Who are your backcourt starters?
So in the East, the easiest one for me was Donovan Mitchell. He's just,
Thermonuclear AF, you might say.
he has been that, and for a really good Cavs team that has had ups and downs, but he's just the guy that is driving that team. I don't really know what the argument against him starting would be. I assume you don't have one. The trickier one for me is the other backcourt starter in the East, and I went with Tyrese Haliburton. I think there are a couple guys with good cases, but it's just, he leads the league in assists. He leads the league in potential assists. I think he's a huge factor in why the Pacers have been surprisingly, not one of the worst teams in the league. They play with a bunch of, great pace. The ball moves, and I think he's just kind of integral to that. He's not a great, shutdown defender, but he's in the passing lanes. He does impact the defense, which I think distinguishes him from a couple guys that maybe people will be surprised we didn't even make our all-star teams, let alone start in the backcourt for the East. So those are my two in the East. I feel really good again about Mitchell, but Halliburton, I think there are good arguments that we could have gone a different direction.
So you didn't need to, because I went the same direction, and Donovan Mitchell, I don't know what he is, the lock. There's probably a debate to be had in the second spot. And I think if you view Jaylen Brown as a guard and want to put him here, I think that's probably the name that would get the most love. But Tyrese Haliburton is averaging over 19 points, 10 assists, 1.5 steals, shooting better than 37% on his threes. There are two players in NBA history who have done that for an entire season: Magic Johnson and Chris Paul.
Yeah.
That's legit. Maybe it's a matter of, okay, well, if you prefer Jaylen Brown here, okay, fine. Tyrese Haliburton has been legit. Hashtag Wally Serbiak's an idiot. And I try not to get mad about, I mentioned this to you, I try not to get mad about what local team broadcasts say. I find it more comical than anything. But like when it's an unhinged like that, and you're using, we had people in our Instagram comments were pointing out, well, that was a bad shot by Tyrese Haliburton. One, like step back contested threes have been something that Tyrese Haliburton can hit. Yeah. Two, even if you don't like the shot, imagine using bad shot selection to prop up Julius fucking Randle in the process. That's my mini rant here. Is I don't know if it's because he plays for the Pacers or because like they're, even when they were, kind of on fire, like they faded into the backdrop. He's been an all-star starter to me. Like I will listen to cases for other people, but if you don't even think he's an all-star based off what he's done this season, I would question what your all-star roster looks like.
Yeah, that's tough. And I think it points to the bigger issue of, there are media votes that affect this. And like, granted, all-star berths don't matter as much usually to like say contract incentives or supermax criteria or whatever as all NBA does. But, it's not nothing. And if you have, so I think it's just kind of, we need to get to the point where if you're employed by the team or our team adjacent, you can't be a media voter for All-Star. It's not everybody that's that way, but if you kind of go around the league and you spend enough time on League Pass, it's not just the studio hosts, which Serbiak was in that case, but the vast majority of home commentators are, they're catering to a home audience. Their biases come through, even if they don't start that way. I think just constantly speaking in a favorable light towards your team is just going to color your opinions, and you're going to see these. It seems like an easy fix to just not have media that are employed by a team vote for All-Star, just because I don't know if Zerbiak has a vote. I assume he does. He's not the problem. There's lots of guys that have opinions like that I think it's just, if you're trying to make this a meritocracy at all, which maybe the All-Star game isn't, maybe it's like, it's an exhibition. It's supposed to be fun, whatever.
It's got to come out of contract incentives then, though. And like, we need to stop citing it as like important discourse. No, excuse me, is what I would say. But if you're going to tie it to contract incentives, you need to bounce. I don't know if Serbiak has a vote either, but you need to bounce that type of bias from it.
Yeah. And it's not just him. That was just kind of the egregious example recently.
He called Tyrese Haliburton a wannabe all-star, said he was in his second year when he's in his third, and then was saying that someone like Julius Randle deserves to make it over him. They don't even play in like the same all-star voting field. And I just can't. Julius Randle's like the king of shitty crunch time shot selection. And so like, I just can't imagine using that as the springboard. So I get you're catering to an audience, but that was just, every so often there are just these, even when you're like trying to account for what you're expecting, it's inflammatory and stupid. And that was one of those instances where it was inflammatory and stupid.
Yeah, not a great look.